So the Packers beat the Eagles 30-16 in a game that truly really wasn't as close as the score indicates. And I know, if you listen to the pundits here, it's Monday, December 7th. A lot of the call-in shows, a lot of the sports radio shows that I've gotten a glimpse of this morning. To be fair, I haven't totally listened or heard all the analysis, but what I've heard is really a common theme to last week's game to the Bears, right? A theme that, in the playoffs when they play good teams, you can't give up a punt return to Jalen Reagor for a touchdown. You can't let the Bears come back and score 2 touchdowns in the second half, right? You can't give up a 4th and 18 touchdown pass to Greg Ward with their backup quarterback, Jalen Hurts, in the game. And again, while I understand all of those things, right? Football is a very situational game. And the Packers special teams will need to improve as the year goes on. If they give up big plays, they're going to lose the playoff game to a good team. That's absolutely fair. But you're taking away from the story. You're taking away from the fact that the Packers dominated, you can say, a bad Bears football team. And I will say a very, very poorly coached Bears team was evident in their absolute debacle of a loss this week to the Lions. But they dominated that football game. That's who they're supposed to play, or that's who they're playing. They're supposed to beat them, and they did that, right? They moved the ball at ease. They played a lot better defensively, forced turnovers, got to the quarterback, had a touchdown off of a turnover. Then they come and play the Eagles. And again, the Eagles are a team that are not playing up to their billing. They've had major offensive line issues all year, starting with Brandon Brooks getting hurt before the year, which has affected the performance of Carson Wentz, who's absolutely struggling, eventually got pulled. Jalen Hurts finished the game for the Eagles. But they do have weapons offensively. They do have good players, and they're a good defense, and they're physical. And ultimately, the Packers went for 437 in the game and ran for 100. And now I know Aaron Jones had a late 77-yard run, but that 77-yard run capped the game after the Eagles did make their run to get back in it. They ran for 149 yards in the game against a good defensive front, a front that's paying Javon Hargrave, I think, $13 million a year on average in his contract. They have Fletcher Cox, they have Derek Barnett, they have Vinny Curry. They have good players up front. The Packers are playing without Corey Linsley, and they dominated up front the entire game. On top of that, defensively, this is a 30-16 game. One of the touchdowns was on special teams. Again, poor coverage. Now the second punt return touchdown given up by the Packers. And the other one was on a 4th and 18 play. But that 4th and 18 play, Hurts gets out of the pocket, and Jair Alexander and Darnell Savage get beat over the top by Greg Ward on a play where Hurts creates with his feet, right? Those are 2 of your best players in your secondary, right? So the other teams practice too, okay? And they have good players, and they're going to put points in the board. But let's put this in perspective. You take away the special teams touchdown, that's 10 points. For the defense, which we have complained about, we have beaten up, we have said they're not good enough to win, blah, 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 blah. They got 10 points. They got to the quarterback 7 times in this game. That's right. They had 7 quarterback sacks in this game. And for the people that, want to pick on the Packers, again, I think the Packers are not a finished product, just like all teams. I think the Packers have warts, just like all teams. But the Packers are 9-3. They're 5-1 at home. They've consistently won in the regular season the 2 years that they have Matt LaFleur. And they've gotten progressively better as the season's gone on. This is a team that is showing signs defensively of competence, first of all, but second of all, dominance. And again, I'm going to be very careful of how I say it. Dominance when they can have a lead, they can pin their ears back, and they can get to the quarterback. That front is going to get home. And they did against a poor offensive line. I get it. Okay. But they stopped the run. They played a lot better defensively overall. A secondary with Kevin King and Jair Alexander, and really the play of Darnell Savage over the last 4 or 5 weeks is starting to not only be competent, but to get to the quarterback, to force turnovers, and at times be dominant. Okay. Now, are they still giving up points? Are they still giving up yards? Absolutely. But they're also the other teams are kicking more field goals. They're not getting in the end zone as much. And they are beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. They're 9-3. They're the 2 seed. I don't know if you heard Aaron Jones' clip there. They're the 2 seed in the NFC right now, only behind the Saints, who still have to play the Chiefs, right? And are playing Taysom Hill at quarterback. So yes, we can look at the losses to the Buccaneers and we can be frustrated because they got ran out of the building. We can look at the Vikings game and say, Dalvin Cook ate them up, right? But, and the Colts game I think is a wash because that game could have went either way with the way both teams played. But what do we know for sure? What we know for sure is the only people that can stop the Packers are the Packers. Offensively, they score touchdowns or they shoot themselves in the foot, right? Defensively, they're getting better. They're showing improvement. Their special teams is still a major concern. And it's coverage, obviously. The big black eyes are the punt return touchdowns. But J.K. Scott has been very inconsistent and poor overall as a punter. Mason Crosby missed another extra point. Okay. And while that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of how this game played out, when Jalen Reagor runs the punt back, and if Jake Elliott doesn't miss his extra point, it's a 17-23 game. One more touchdown and extra point, you end up losing, right, because of that missed extra point. So, again, there are areas where they got to get better, but they are trending in the right direction. And for me, what stands out in this game is, a team that battled back in the Eagles, a little bit of excitement from Hurts, created the big play on the 4th and 18 to score the touchdown. Reagor, the rookie, hits the punt return. They get 2 3-and-outs in a row. But when the Packers needed to make a play, they did. And ultimately, it was the guy that I continue to say, Brian Gutekunst, Russ Ball need to find a way to sign him. I understand the track record with signing running backs. Aaron Jones is not a running back. Aaron Jones is a unique player in this offense that while you absolutely could draft and develop someone, and maybe they'd be as good as Aaron Jones, maybe they'd be better. I would not risk that given the success that you've had with Aaron Jones and the secondary weapon that he is to Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, Aaron Jones in 2020 and 2021. And if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback in 2022, those are the type of weapons you want to surround around your franchise quarterback to give him the ability to get back to the Super Bowl. Now, they started with the left tackle. They have an amazing chess piece in Elgton Jenkins that's going to allow them to decide on, John Runyon the offensive line we saw on Sunday featured Jenkins at center. They moved Lucas Patrick to left guard, played Billy Turner at right guard, and started Rick Wagner and left Runyon on the bench, right? So that flexibility along the offensive line, is something that Bakhtiari solidifies and takes that one huge position, and Elgton Jenkins gives them a lot of other options. They are better defensively when Kevin King plays, but they are a completely different team with Aaron Jones. 77-yard run, capped it, ended it, put the game out of reach. Packers win 30-16. But if you watch the clip, the most important thing to see is a bunch of dudes running down the field trying to block for Aaron Jones. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I know he's fast, but was the jet sweep player and ends up running and getting in front of him and trying to lead block. And the left tackle, who just got paid $20-some million, is trying as hard as he can to catch up and get in the way of someone. That effort is a team. I'll leave it at that. That's a team. That's a team that wants to win football games. That's a team that's coming together. That's a team that you don't want to play in the playoffs. Could they lose? Absolutely. But they're trending in the direction where I'd bet on them, right? I'd bet on them. And I think there's 2, maybe 3 really good teams in the AFC. I think the Steelers, you can't argue with their record. The Chiefs, to me, are the best team until someone proves they're not. But in the NFC, it's up for grabs. I don't think the Buccaneers are who they were when they beat the Packers. I don't think the Saints are who they were when the Packers beat them. I think the Seahawks are up and down. You could argue the Packers can be up and down. You tell me. Someone's going to get hot in December. Someone's going to get hot in the playoffs. But I'll tell you this. I'd bet on a team with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones as my primary weapons as the team that I think is going to make it to the Super Bowl.